Just not just a cute moment, it was just a cavalcade of cuteness on the Buckingham Palace balcony for the annual Trooping the Colour parade.
What did Prince Louis say? And more importantly, why was the palace scrambling to keep it under wraps? At first it was just speculation, a fleeting comment overheard at a public event, perhaps a misinterpretation, a child's innocent remark blown out of proportion. But this was no ordinary child. This was Prince Louis, the grandson of King Charles, the youngest son of the future King of England. Every word, every gesture carried weight, dissected by the public with surgical precision. And then the rumors took shape. The whispers coalesced into a single damning question. Did Prince Louis just expose something about Camilla the palace never wanted the world to hear? The news hit the internet like a tidal wave. Twitter flooded with speculation. Instagram reels dissected every royal appearance, searching for clues. TikTok theorists pieced together past footage, connecting dots that, to the casual observer, may have seemed unrelated. Yet, one fact stood out above all else. The palace refused to comment. Not a single royal aide, not a single spokesperson dared to issue a statement. Silence in the world of the monarchy speaks louder than words. But that silence only fed the storm. Why wouldn't they address the rumors? What was being hidden? If Prince Louis's words were as innocent as the palace would have the world believe, why were royal insiders scrambling behind closed doors? And then, Camilla's name surfaced. For years, she had fought to shake the ghosts of the past. For decades, she had battled the shadow of Diana, the people's princess, the woman she was blamed for betraying. And though the world had seemingly moved on and had accepted her as queen, there were those who never forgot. Could it be that Prince Louis, young as he was, had just reopened an old wound the monarchy had desperately tried to heal? Royal analysts wasted no time. Was this a slip of the tongue? Or had the young prince merely voiced what so many had already been thinking? Speculation ran wild. Some claimed he had overheard hushed conversations within the place, perhaps a remark from his father, Prince William, or a whispered grievance from a royal aide. Others suggested it was nothing more than a child's innocent observation, unfiltered, uncalculated, yet damning nonetheless. But the question remained, was this a moment of childhood honesty, or was there a deeper truth behind his words? One thing was certain, the monarchy was once again under scrutiny, and this time it wasn't a seasoned royal making headlines, it was a child born into a world of rigid decorum, a child too young to understand the weight his words carried, or, perhaps, young enough to say what others never dared. But before we reveal what Prince Louis said, let's examine his relationship with Queen Camilla. They say children see the truth before adults do. Their minds, untainted by politics and social expectations, absorb the world around them with raw, unfiltered clarity. And sometimes, in their innocence, they speak truths that others fear to acknowledge. Prince Louis is too young to understand the weight of the crown, too young to grasp the decades of history that shaped his family, yet in a single moment, he may have done what few dared, pull back the curtain on one of the monarchy's most fragile relationships. For years, Queen Camilla fought to cement her place in the royal family. She was the outsider, the woman once blamed for breaking the heart of the most beloved princess in modern history. The public had not forgotten. Diana's shadow stretched long, looming over every attempt Camilla made to rebrand herself. But the battle for public acceptance was just one part of the story. Behind palace doors, a different challenge unfolded, earning the trust of the next generation. Prince Louis never knew Diana. He never saw the tabloid wars that vilified Camilla and never watched his father and uncle wrestle with the scars of the past. But history has a way of lingering. It embeds itself in whispers at the dinner table, in the careful avoidance of certain names, in the tension that lingers beneath the surface of forced smiles. And children? They feel it. His interactions with Camilla were few but telling. Unlike his grandfather, King Charles, who showered him with warmth, Camilla maintained a distance. Not cold, but careful. At public events, she was cordial, but there was always a subtle hesitance, a quiet awkwardness. Was it Louis's youthful energy, so wildly different from the structured, disciplined world Camilla had come to embody? Or was it something deeper? Because while the world saw a joyful, carefree child waving from the royal balcony, those within the palace saw something else. A boy born into a monarchy still haunted by its past. And whether or not Louis fully understood the complexities, he was growing up in a family that carried wounds that had never fully healed. The generational divide was impossible to ignore. Prince William, raised in the era of scandal and heartbreak, had every reason to keep his children at a safe distance from the woman who had once been at the center of so much pain. Harry had made his feelings clear in the pages of his memoir, describing Camilla as dangerous, a calculated player in the royal game. But what did William think? He never spoke publicly about it, never voiced the emotions that surely lingered from his mother's tragic fate. And yet, silence speaks volumes. Was Prince Louis shielded from the truth? Or had he, in his innocence, picked up on what the world had long suspected, that beneath the carefully curated image of royal unity, there were still fractures? Tradition dictated that the past be buried, that bygones be bygones. But in a family where history had shaped everything, could a child like Louis be expected to ignore the unspoken? He was growing up in a monarchy, desperately trying to modernize, to move forward, to distance itself from the controversies of the past. Yet here he was, unknowingly stirring old wounds with a single remark. To understand Louis's perspective, we must first look at his upbringing in the royal world. Born into history and raised in duty, Prince Louis was never destined for an ordinary life. From the moment he entered the world on April 23, 2018, he was more than just a newborn. He was a symbol, a continuation of a dynasty that had ruled for centuries. His birth was not just a family affair, it was a national event. The bells of Westminster Abbey rang in celebration, and gun salutes echoed across London. Even before he could take his first breath, the world was watching. But unlike his father, Prince William, or his uncle, Prince Harry, Louis was not the direct heir to the throne. His future was not one of absolute expectation, but rather of quiet significance. He was fourth in line, close enough to the crown to matter, but far enough to be granted a certain freedom, or so it seemed. From the very beginning, Louis was different. Where his older siblings, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, often carried themselves with a sense of discipline, Louis was unapologetically himself. Mischievous, charismatic, full of life. He stole the show at royal events, not with carefully measured waves or polite nods, but with his unpredictability. His playful antics at Trooping the Colour, his defiant gestures at public ceremonies. The world saw a child unafraid to break the mold. But behind the laughter and viral moments there was something more. A young boy being shaped by forces far greater than himself. Unlike past royal generations, Louis was growing up in a monarchy desperately trying to adapt. The traditions that once defined the institution had been shaken. Scandals had tarnished the royal image, family rifts had become public, and the expectations of the modern world clashed with centuries-old customs. Louis was being raised in the middle of it all. His parents, William and Kate, had made a conscious effort to provide a sense of normalcy. They shielded him, allowing him a childhood unlike the one his father had endured. No relentless paparazzi following his every move, no tabloid rumors shaping his identity before he could even form words. But despite their best efforts, Louis was still a prince, still a child of the crown. Every appearance he made was scrutinized, every action is dissected. Was he too unruly, too carefree? Or was he simply a reflection of a monarchy in transition? As the years passed, one thing became clear. Louis could not be ignored. His personality, his presence, and his very existence demanded attention. He was the face of a new generation, a child born into privilege, yet unaware of the immense weight on his small shoulders. But what happens when a child speaks before understanding the power of his words? Now, let's dive deeper into the moment that sparked this royal controversy. One sentence, one unexpected moment, and suddenly the monarchy was thrown into a storm of speculation. Prince Louis, the youngest of the royal children, was never expected to make headlines in the way his father or grandfather did. He was charming, playful, mischievous, but never a disruptor. Until he spoke words that sent shockwaves through the palace, igniting a controversy no one saw coming. The exact statement remains a mystery. Some claim it was a casual remark, an offhand comment uttered in the presence of royal staff. Others insist it was far more deliberate, a moment of raw honesty from a child too young to understand the consequences of his words. What did he say? And why was the palace scrambling to silence it? At first, it was just a whisper, a rumor trickling through aristocratic circles, then spreading to social media like wildfire. Something about Camilla, something that unsettled the very foundation of the royal family. Theories erupted overnight. Had Louis overheard his parents in private conversation? Had a slip of the tongue from a palace aide planted a dangerous thought in his mind? Or worse, had he simply spoken a truth no one else dared to say? The royal press office refused to comment. Instead of quelling the rumors, their silence fueled the hysteria. The lack of a denial spoke volumes, and soon the media was in a frenzy. Headlines speculated on the nature of the remark, each theory more scandalous than the last. Inside the palace walls, panic spread. Advisors rushed to contain the situation, attempting to erase the words before they could take on a life of their own. Damage control meetings were held, phone calls were made, but the problem wasn't just the words themselves, it was who had spoken them. If a royal historian or a biographer had made the statement, it could have been brushed aside as speculation. If a tabloid had published the claim, it could have been dismissed as sensationalism. But this was different. This was Prince Louis, an innocent child, untouched by the weight of politics, and that innocence gave his words a dangerous credibility. Public opinion was divided. Some believed it was an innocent mistake, a child's misunderstanding of the world around him, but others weren't so sure. What if Louis had simply voiced what many within the royal family truly felt, but never dared to say out loud? The controversy deepened. If Louis's words held any truth, what did that mean for Camilla's place in the monarchy? But to truly understand the weight of this moment, we must look at Camilla's complicated history with the royal family. Once the most hated woman in Britain, now queen. But has Camilla truly escaped the shadows of the past? Or does history have a way of lingering, haunting even the most carefully crafted redemption stories? A name was once whispered in scandal, a permanent stain on the monarchy's legacy. The woman who came between Charles and Diana, the woman the public refused to accept, the woman Diana herself called the third person in her marriage. For years, Camilla Parker Bowles was not just an adversary in a failed royal romance, she was a villain. Tabloids painted her as cold, calculated, unworthy of standing beside the future king. She was ridiculed, scorned, despised. Even as Charles fought to integrate her into the royal fold, the public's memory was unrelenting. And then Diana was gone. A tragic accident, a nation in mourning, a wound that would never fully heal. The woman once labeled the people's princess became immortalized in the hearts of millions, her legacy unshakable. And with that legacy came an impossible standard for Camilla to live up to. For years, she remained in the background, silent, careful, waiting. Charles, committed to proving their love was real, endured decades of disapproval before the monarchy even acknowledged her as his wife. Their 2005 wedding was muted, an event of necessity rather than celebration. Even as she took on the title of Duchess of Cornwall, the word queen was unspoken, unattainable. The public never forgot, even when she worked to reinvent herself, dedicating her time to charitable causes and standing loyally beside Charles, she was never Diana. And that was the greatest crime of all. But time has a way of softening sharp edges. Slowly, ever so carefully, Camilla's presence became less controversial. A reluctant acceptance replaced the fury. The older generation who had once despised her grew tired, and the younger generation, one that never knew Diana beyond grainy footage and sentimental retellings, saw her in a different light. Even Queen Elizabeth, after years of ambiguity, gave her reluctant blessing. In one of her final public statements before her passing, the Queen announced that it was her sincere wish that Camilla be known as Queen Consort when the time came. A statement designed to seal Camilla's place in history, a final, undeniable endorsement. But if Queen Elizabeth's approval was meant to silence the ghosts of the past, it failed, because two voices carried more weight than any royal decree. William and Harry. William, bound by duty, played the role expected of him, polite, civil, acknowledging her place but never embracing it. There was respect, but never warmth. Camilla was never a maternal figure in his life. She was a fact he had learned to tolerate. Harry, however, was different. He never forgave. His memoir Spare painted Camilla as manipulative, willing to sacrifice others to improve her public image. He made it clear she was the villain in his mother's tragedy, and he would never forget. But what about the next generation? What about Louis, too young to have lived through the scandal but born into its consequences? And here's where it gets even more interesting. Prince Louis's recent actions say more than words ever could. A picture is worth 1,000 words, but a child's silence can say even more. In a world where every royal gesture is scrutinized, where every smile, every glance, and every carefully measured interaction is dissected for meaning, Prince Louis stands apart. Not for grand speeches or political maneuvering, but for what he doesn't say. Over the years, his interactions with Queen Camilla have been limited, but not unnoticed. The world has seen him on the royal balcony, at family gatherings, during carefully orchestrated public appearances. And yet, there's something different, something unspoken. At first, it seemed like youthful indifference, a child caught up in the distractions of royal life. But then, people started noticing the patterns. Moments that individually seemed insignificant, but together painted a larger picture. There was the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, where Louis, despite being the youngest of the Wales children, stole the spotlight with his playful defiance. While his siblings adhered to the decorum expected of them, Louis was restless and unpredictable, and when Camilla leaned in to speak to him, he turned away. Then, at the coronation of King Charles, Louis's absence from significant moments raised eyebrows. While Prince George played a formal role and Princess Charlotte remained composed, Louis was suddenly missing. A child's short attention span, perhaps? Or was it an intentional decision, a way to avoid forced interactions that might raise questions? And then came Trooping the Colour, the moment that set the internet ablaze. A family tradition, a grand spectacle. The entire royal family gathered on the Buckingham Palace balcony, waving to the crowds, but amidst the fanfare, a brief yet powerful moment was captured. Prince Louis, standing near Camilla, barely acknowledged her presence. No shared laughter, no playful gestures. When the Queen turned to speak, his expression remained neutral. No nod, no reaction, just silence. And silence in the royal world is louder than words. Body language experts weighed in. Was it discomfort? A subconscious reaction to unspoken tensions? Or was it something deeper? Some dismissed it as a coincidence, a child lost in the excitement of the moment, but others weren't so sure. Had Louis, in his innocence, revealed the quiet fractures within the family? Had he unknowingly echoed the sentiments of those who had never fully accepted Camilla's place on the throne? Royal insiders refused to address the speculation. No statements, no clarifications, just the same orchestrated silence that had followed every uncomfortable question about Camilla's role in the monarchy. And yet, the images remained, circulating online, dissected by millions. A child, too young to understand the weight of royal alliances, or perhaps young enough to see them for what they really are. Could this be a sign that something is being hidden? Let's explore the possibility of a cover-up. Silence can be deafening, especially when the palace refuses to speak. The British monarchy has weathered scandals before. From abdications to affairs, from leaked phone calls to explosive interviews, they have survived it all. But survival comes at a cost, and one of their most powerful weapons? Silence. When rumors erupted about Prince Louis's alleged statement regarding Camilla, the palace did what it does best. It said nothing. No denials, no clarifications, no carefully worded responses from royal aides, just an airtight wall of indifference. But if history has taught us anything, it's that when the monarchy refuses to address a controversy, it usually means there's something to hide. This isn't the first time they've chosen silence over confrontation. For centuries, the royal family has mastered the art of suppression. When Edward VIII's love affair with Wallis Simpson threatened the throne, the monarchy orchestrated his abdication, erasing him from history as if he had never been king at all. When Princess Margaret's scandalous relationship with Peter Townsend risked public outcry, they buried it under a mountain of royal protocol. And when Diana exposed the darkest truths of her marriage, the firm responded not with emotion, but with cold, calculated silence. This time was no different. Inside the palace, there was no doubt, Prince Louis had become a problem. Whether his words had been misunderstood, exaggerated, or entirely factual no longer mattered. What mattered was perception. And in the royal world, perception is everything. Damage control meetings were inevitable. How could they contain this without drawing even more attention to it? Leaks had to be stopped. The press had to be redirected. And if history was to repeat itself, a distraction was surely on the way. It was a tried and true strategy. When Prince Andrew's scandals threatened to consume the monarchy, Kate Middleton conveniently made more public appearances. When Harry and Meghan's interviews painted the royals in a negative light, sudden announcements about royal engagements filled the news cycle. Could the same be happening now? There was another approach they often took. Bury the story in time. Let the public speculate, let the theories run wild, and then wait. Eventually, another headline would emerge and the world would move on. The monarchy understood something most institutions didn't. People forget. But this time, there was one problem. Prince Louis wasn't a rogue royal or a rebellious prince airing his grievances in an interview. He was a child. A child whose innocence made this controversy even more dangerous. So, was Prince Louis's statement just an innocent remark, or is there something much bigger beneath the surface? Truth and perception are often two sides of the same coin. What's real? And what do we choose to believe? Theories have swirled endlessly. Was Prince Louis's statement just an innocent remark? One that a child made without thought or malice? Or was it something deeper? Something that revealed an unspoken truth about the monarchy? Some believe he simply repeated something he overheard. A stray conversation between adults, a hushed remark from a palace aide, a lingering sentiment from those who never fully accepted Camilla's place on the throne. But others aren't so sure. What if Louis wasn't just repeating? What if he was reflecting? Unlike the generations before him, Louis will never know a world where Camilla is just the other woman, where her name was whispered in scandal, where the public saw her as an invader rather than a queen. To him, Camilla is simply a part of the monarchy, a constant figure in the background. But does that mean he sees her the way the palace wants him to? Perhaps Louis, in his youthful innocence, sees the monarchy not as it wants to be seen, but as it truly is. A family still fractured, a throne built on history too heavy to erase, a reality where past wounds haven't fully healed, no matter how carefully they've been covered. And that brings us to the real question: does public perception create the truth, or does it simply shape it? Because no matter what Louis actually said, no matter what he meant, the reaction tells us everything we need to know. The panic, the silence, the desperate attempts to move on. They all point to a monarchy still haunted by its past. So what does this reveal about the future of the royal family? That even in a new era, the old battles haven't truly ended. Despite Tidespotard's carefully crafted image of unity, the cracks remain. And if a child's words, unfiltered, uncalculated, can shake the institution so deeply, what happens when he grows older? What happens when his voice carries even more weight? Was this a passing storm, a moment the monarchy will soon sweep under the rug? Or was it a glimpse into something far bigger, a future where the next generation will no longer stay silent? One thing is certain: this is not the last time Prince Louis will surprise us. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.